certainly have your work cut out as mistress of Mandalay. To be perfectly frank with you, my dear, I can't see you doing it. You haven't the experience. You haven't the faintest idea of what it means to be a great lady.
You can't. Heathcliff's not a man, but something dark and horrible to live with. Do you imagine, Catherine, that I don't know why you're acting so?
No! Which one of you did it? One of you did it! Which one of you made me the way I am?
This is the only book I recommend you read.
What have you done with my daughter?
Are you mad? I am your daughter.
Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing really well. So today I'm super excited because we are announcing the 2024 Gothic Hearts Reading Challenge for February. So I will be co-hosting this year, which last year I just took part and I had so much fun. And if you've been around here for a while, you know that my Gothic Reading Challenge kind of carried through the entire year, and it was the basis for my own sort of Gothic and Gothic adjacent Haunted Victorian book club, which I'll have all of the information linked down below for that. But this year, super excited because I was looking forward to the challenge as it was. I was hoping everybody was going to do it again. And so like I said, this year I'm co-hosting. So we have Regina St. Clair, E.D. Lewis, D.L. Tillery, Aphrodite Lee, and Dahlia De Winters, who are all taking part as co-hosts, and we had a blast putting this together. And yeah, so if you are a lover of Gothic fiction, if you're a lover of romance, or you would like to kind of dip your toes into the genre, which is what I did more so last year, this is definitely going to be for you. And of course, this is going to be wrapped in with the book club as well. So I hope that you guys are as excited as I am. So let's get into what's going to go on for this readathon. So this year we do have a really nice bingo card that was created by Aphrodite Lee. So on here we have the regular reading prompts and a whole bunch of bonus prompts. And then for my video, what I wanted to do is go through what I'm going to read for each one of the prompts, probably give a couple of suggestions to you guys that might spark some interest, or of course, you know, you can read whatever you want for each one of the prompts. And then I also put together some accompanying movies as well. So some Gothic movies, but also some movies that kind of just had the same sort of feels as the books that I had put together for each one of the prompts. So we have the main prompts, I believe there's 7, and then we have bonus prompts as well. So this is very loose. It always is. These readathons are super fun. There's not too many rules, and you know, we're all busy and we all have trouble trying to fit all of our reading into every single month. So of course, you know, have fun with it. And like always, you can use one book for multiple prompts if you want to fill out your bingo card. So let's jump into the regular prompts. And like I said, I have a bunch of suggestions for each one of them, a couple of movie suggestions, and then we'll get into the bonus prompts a little bit later. So the first prompt is Dracula, read a Gothic story with vampire love. And I'm so super excited about this one specifically because I've mentioned in a couple of videos that I'm really craving vampires lately. I'm currently doing my annual rewatch of Buffy, and I've just been wanting all the vampire stuff. So for my pick, I'm gonna go with Queen of the Damned by Anne Rice. And I know Anne Rice is like a generic choice for a prompt like this, but I haven't read her in several years, and I don't think I've ever read the Queen of the Damned book. I saw the movie, of course, when it came out, but I don't think I've ever read the book. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to get that one in. And of course, speaking of Anne Rice, any of her Vampire Chronicles would work for this prompt as well. And in addition to that one, I also put down Carmilla by J. Sheridan Le Fanu, which is one vampire book that I read at the end of 2022. I believe it was December of 2022, and absolutely loved it. If you've never read Carmilla, it is a wonderfully sensual gothic vampire story. I absolutely loved it. And then for other picks, we have The Vampire by John William Polidori. So this is an adventure that starts in London and moves over to Rome. Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas, a supernatural western based in Texas on the Mexico border. And I also put in A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is another modern gothic based on the story of Dracula's first wife, Constanta. So this one sounds really, really good to me. It's one that I have on my reading list as well. But for right now, I'm going to stick with Queen of the Damned. And speaking of Queen of the Damned, of course, we have the movie adaptation and the original Interview with the Vampire adaptation with Brad Pitt. But of course, there's also the modern show that would fit in here as well. If you wanted to stick with a Dracula story, of course, the original Bram Stoker's Dracula is the classic. But Dracula Untold and Dracula 2000 are ones that I also really, really enjoyed. Nosferatu is another good choice here. If you've never seen the original Nosferatu, I would highly suggest it. Especially now, it's probably a good time to put it in because they are doing a remake of this later on in 2024 in movie form. Only Lovers Left Alive, which is one that I haven't seen yet, but one that's on my list. Last Voyage of the Demeter, not a gothic story at all, but it fits in with the Dracula vibe, so I put that one on here. I haven't seen it yet. It came out in 2023, of course, but I thought if I was going to be reading some vampire lore, that this one would definitely fit in here. And then the last one I had on my list is actually a really funny one. It's The Little Vampire, and this is, I've talked about this show before on this channel, and this is a German-Canadian show about a little boy vampire who befriends a human boy, and that's forbidden, they're not supposed to, but it has wonderful gothic feels. It's super cheesy. And you know, if you're reading vampire gothic stories, I thought this would be a wonderful accompaniment to throw on there for your movie watching. So like I said, the movie choices aren't necessarily all within the gothic genre per se, but it does accompany these very, very well. The next prompt is Withering Heights, read a gothic story with a large estate. So of course Withering Heights is the original gothic story with a large estate. It's one of my favorites. I remember watching the 1939 version of Withering Heights back when I was a teenager, and I gobbled it up. I watched it over and over and over. It's fantastic. So of course, you know, you can read the Withering Heights book if you've never read it before. It's been years and years since I've read it, but I don't think I'm going to stick it into this one. My choice instead is going to be Lakeside, which is a modern gothic story by Lyndall Clipstone. So this is a part of a series, and in book one, it takes place in a place called Lake's Edge Estate, and it's a gothic fantasy about monsters and magic set on the banks of a cursed lake. And isn't this cover just absolutely amazing? It just grabbed me right from the get-go. It's everything that I want right now, so I'm really, really hoping that the story lives up to this, because that's one thing that I hate, is when the story doesn't live up to a beautiful cover. So this is my choice. And then for a couple of suggestions, we have Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. So this will actually fit into a couple of the prompts here. It's also a dark academia. So this takes place in the Brooke Haunts School for Girls. So it's a little bit of a dark academia gothic story that takes place in a crumbling institution that is haunted and accursed. So I mean, that sounds good to me. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, as well as We Have Always Lived in the Castle, will also work here. So this is a really good opportunity to read some classics if you haven't had a chance to pick them up yet. Rebecca was one that I read for this readathon last year. If you've never read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, this takes place in an estate called Manderley, and it's about a young lady who goes over there when she marries a gentleman, and she is, you know, having a little bit of difficulty adjusting to her new life, and there's lots of family secrets and ambiance and all of the things. That has all of the dark and spooky that you're probably craving in a readathon like this. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen is a gothic parody, and this is not something that I expected when I read it, but I have to say that I did really, really enjoy it. It's one that I read last year. The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, and this takes place in an estate called Blackwater Park. And another one that I haven't read yet but is on my list, Wakenhurst, is another one that takes place in an estate called Wake's End that would fit into this prompt. The Ancestor by Danielle Tressani takes place in a castle in Italy. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, of course, takes place in Thornfield. I adore the movie adaptation, but I only had a chance to pick up the book itself last year, and it is fantastic. So that's a classic that you can pick up and read easily and really enjoy the story. It does have all the dark and spooky. Burnt Offerings by Robert Marasso is another one that would fit into this one. And I actually watched the movie adaptation of Burnt Offerings a little while ago, and it was absolutely fantastic. For movie adaptations, of course, we have Withering Heights. So my favorite version of that one is the 1939 version with Laurence Olivier. It's the one I fell in love with as a teenager, and I would highly recommend it. You can find it here on YouTube, so have a look for that one. Rebecca, there is a modern adaptation of this one, but I personally would stick with the 1940s version with Laurence Olivier. This was really well done. So what I did last year was I read the book and then watched the movie, and I enjoyed both probably equally. Burnt Offerings from 1976. This was the movie adaptation that I watched a couple of years ago. Really enjoyed it. And this is a situation where the mansion that the family is staying in is a character in and of itself within the story. The Haunting from 1999, featuring Catherine Zeta-Jones, of course, is a Haunting of Hill House adaptation, and I enjoyed this one even more than The Haunting of Hill House that came out on Netflix a couple of years ago, which wasn't really my thing, so this is why I'm putting this one on here and not the other one. The Others from 2001 with Nicole Kidman. This has all of the wonderful feels and, you know, the fog and the darkness and the dankness and the spookiness of the English moors. So this one would work here. And then, of course, I put Crimson Peak on here as well. So if you love big, old, drafty houses, this is definitely a pick to put into this one to accompany this prompt. And then prompt number 3, we have Jane Eyre, read a Gothic story featuring a governess. And I love governess stories. I don't know, there's just something about them. I just gobble them up. So like I said, I did read Jane Eyre last year and I really enjoyed it. Plus, I love the movie adaptation as well. So for this prompt, I'm actually going to go with The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, which is a retelling of The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. And the audiobook for this one is quite good, and I really enjoyed it when I read it back, I believe in 2020. So I thought this was a good opportunity to reread this one. I really enjoyed it, and it's a modern kind of retelling, which would work for one of the other prompts that's coming up as well. We also have The Governess by Mary Kingswood. This is book 1 in the Sisters of Woodside Mystery, and basically I believe these sisters, their father dies, and they have to try to find means of their own, and of course, at least one of the sisters becomes a governess, so that would fit in here. Mistress of Melon by Victoria Holt from 1960 also features a sprawling mansion and family secrets in Cornwall. So with a sprawling mansion, this could also work for the other prompt, the Withering Heights prompt as well. And then we have The Secrets of Hartwood Hall by Katie Lumsden. Takes place in 1852, where Margaret Lennox is a young widow and takes up a position as governess at the mysterious Hartwood Hall. I'm going to try to get this one in there too. My February is very full. But this one, it just grabbed me right away, and I really like the sound of it. So I might try to get that one in along with my reread of The Turn of the Screw. And then, of course, for movie accompaniments, we do have Jane Eyre. My favorite adaptation is the one from 1997 with Ciarán Hinds. It's fantastic, and he does such a fantastic job as Mr. Rochester. The Innocents from 1961 with Deborah Kerr is a movie adaptation of The Turn of the Screw. I watched this one a couple of years ago and I really enjoyed it. And then we have a double adaptation actually. Dark Shadows, we have the 1966 TV show as well as the Tim Burton redo from the early 2000s, which is totally cheesy in its own way, but I still really enjoyed it. And then if you wanted to lighten up your movie watching a little bit but still fit with the same sort of themes as the prompt, of course we have The Sound of Music and Nanny McPhee. Nanny McPhee is definitely something that I would probably sit down on a Sunday afternoon and watch. Not a gothic story whatsoever, but it's heartwarming, and it features a nanny or a governess, and you know, it's Emma Thompson, so you can't go wrong there. And the next prompt, we have Tule Witch, read a gothic story featuring a BIPOC main character. So really excited to have this one in here. I ended up not liking my choice for this prompt last year, so I want to dive in and see if I can find something that I like a little bit better. So I'm actually using the same book for 2 prompts, and I'm going to be talking about it a little bit later. But for suggestions, I have Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which was super popular a couple of years ago. I haven't gotten to this one yet. I might see if I can squeeze this one in. Like I said, February is very, very full already, but this one is definitely one I have on the top of my list. The Fledgling by Tananarive Due. So this one very much has the same feels as The Good House, and I think has a lot to do with grief. Beloved by Toni Morrison, along the same lines, is what I've heard a beautiful story, but has a lot to do with grief. The Ghost Bride by Yangtze Chu is a new one. It's a gothic including Chinese folklore. The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, which is one that I had mentioned before. And this is described as Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca in the aftermath of the Mexican War of Independence. So that sounds absolutely fascinating. Another one that I haven't gotten to, but I've heard a lot of buzz around it, so that one would fit really, really well with this prompt. And then for movie suggestions, a really strange one, but it does kind of fit in with the themes of this. People Under the Stairs from 1991. Not something you would definitely put in the gothic genre, but definitely a good accompaniment here with a sprawling mansion, family secrets, all of those same sort of themes. Eve's Bayou from 1997 with Samuel L. Jackson. I've never ever seen this, but in my research it popped up as something that was super popular back then. Beloved, which I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the book, from 1998 and features Oprah Winfrey and Danny Glover. Dracula from 1972 featuring William Marshall. This is one that I haven't seen, but I think I'm going to try to pop it on. I think this will be a really fun one to put in here. And Blade from 1998 with Wesley Snipes. Definitely has the vampire feels in here as well. So this was a really weird one to stick on, but when I was looking for gothic movies with BIPOC characters, these popped up and they very strangely kind of fit with this whole theme. So I decided to put them on here because I thought, if I'm going to be reading books with heavier themes, some of these might be a little bit fun to put on and watch after I'm done, just as a little bit of a palate cleanser. And then the next prompt is Gaywyck, read a book with an LGBTQ main character. So I took the opportunity to stick a book on here that I've seen several times over the past couple of years but haven't had a chance to pick up, and that is Where the Dark Eye Glances, Queering Edgar Allan Poe, edited by Steve Berman. So this one is really super interesting sounding, and of course it has Edgar Allan Poe in there, and I've been craving Poe ever since reading The Widow of Pale Harbor last month with my book club. So this is my choice for this one, but we do have another couple of suggestions here. The Manor House Governess by C.A. Castle. So this revolves around an orphan boy raised in an all-boys school. So that one sounds really, really interesting. The Picture of Dorian Gray, of course, would fit in here. That was my choice for this prompt last year. Definitely a classic, obviously, but this did give me the chance to pick that one up, and it is a devastating story. I loved it from cover to cover. It was fantastic. Plain Bad Heroines would work here as well. We talked a little bit about that one before. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen by Alan Moore would work here. And A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, which we spoke about before, would work for this prompt. And then the last suggestion that I have is The Magpie Lord by K.J. Charles. Book 1 in a Charm of Magpie series. So this would be considered what you would call a trashy gothic romance, is the way that it was described. So if you're looking for more of those kinds of feels, that would definitely work for this prompt as well. And then for some movie suggestions, of course, we have The Interview with the Vampire, the TV adaptation, Dracula's Daughter from 1936, The Haunting from 1999, or the 1963 version. featuring Catherine Zeta-Jones, which is one that I spoke about before, A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the 2003 remake, and of course The Picture of Dorian Gray from 1945. So if you're reading Dorian Gray, I would highly suggest watching the movie adaptation as well. It's such a fantastic story, and it was so taboo from the time that it was from. It's great, and if you haven't picked it up, I would highly suggest taking the opportunity to put this one in your prompt. And the next one is Moonflower. So this is read a Gothic story that takes place in an exotic location, and I'm not gonna lie, I struggled with this prompt a little bit, but I did find a few things to put in here for suggestions and one that I'm gonna read for myself. But I would definitely suggest watching everybody else's announcement videos to get more suggestions, because all of my other co-hosts are like really up there with their Gothic reading, and I'm just kind of a novice in the past couple of years. So of course we have La Hacienda, which came out a couple of years ago, and Mexican Gothic as well, which both would fit for this prompt. The Governess by Camille Auster. So this is not really an exotic location, but it's a foreign location. So this takes place in Hungary, where a woman takes up post as governess. So this is my pick for this prompt. I'm really excited to get into this one because I don't think I've ever read anything about Hungary, and I kind of have an idea where this story is going to go. Another modern Gothic, we have The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokski, a sumptuous Gothic-infused story about a marriage that is unraveled by dark secrets, a friendship cursed to end in tragedy, and the dangers of believing in fairy tales. So doesn't that sound absolutely fantastic? So those are a couple of suggestions. Like I said, I struggled a little bit with this prompt, so I do have one on here that I'm going to put into my reading, but please go watch everybody. You should be watching everybody else's videos anyway, but please go watch everybody else's videos to find out what they picked for this prompt. And the next prompt that we have is The Wife in the Attic, read a Gothic retelling. So this is one that I was super excited about because there's a specific book that I had picked for this prompt even before I knew that I was going to be in this readathon, and that is My Dear Henry by Kaylin Bayron. Now I read a book by her in 2023 that was just okay for me, but this one looks really good, and it's a reimagining of The Picture of Dorian Gray. So this was also the one that I wanted to pick for my BIPOC main character. I think this looks so good. The cover is fantastic, and the story of Dorian Gray is one that really sticks out in my mind. So I wanted to see kind of the author's take on this. And then some other suggestions, we have Melmoth by Sarah Perry, which is a retelling of Melmoth the Wanderer, of course. And next, this one made me chuckle, Hollow, a spicy retelling of Sleepy Hollow by Karina Hale. And this one, if I have room to get this one in there, depending on how long it is, I will definitely try to squeeze it in because I think it's going to give me a giggle. Jane by April Lindner is another one that has been on my list, but I haven't been able to get to. So this is a retelling, of course, of Jane Eyre, you know, set in modern times. And the last one, I stuck this one on here. It's not really an reimagining, but it is a prelude to Withering Heights. So this is House of Dead Maids by Claire B. Dunkel, and I've seen this book around. I've heard a lot about it, haven't looked at it myself, but of course Withering Heights being one of my favorite stories of all time, this one is definitely that I wanted to suggest to you guys. And then for movie adaptations, I mean, the movie adaptations are going to be reimaginings of just about every Gothic story out there. So all of the movie adaptations pretty much that I've spoken about would fit into movie adaptations for this one. So I'm definitely going to take the opportunity to rewatch a lot of the movie adaptations of these Gothic stories and just have a whole Gothic February. It's fantastic. I don't usually do a whole lot like in regards to Valentine's Day, but this readathon is, you know, my go-to for this time of year. It's very bleak. I live in Canada. It's super cold. It's -50 today. I'm not going anywhere. And so this gives me an opportunity to read all the things and watch all of the things that have those sort of spooky vibes that I'm looking for. So all of the movies that I have on here, we're probably going to watch most of them, honestly, because my husband and I are super big movie buffs. So really looking forward to that. So those are the main prompts, and I just very quickly wanted to go through the bonus prompts that are on this bingo card as well. If you have room in your February to fit these in, in, it would be fantastic. So we have all of these would be read a story with. So we have a mysterious secret passage, a cursed family lineage, that's a good one. Protagonist is haunted by nightmares, I like the sound of that. Romance between a mortal and a supernatural being. A protagonist who communicates with ghosts. A heroine discovers a family secret. A character wrongly imprisoned. A doppelganger or mysterious twin. A cursed forest as a central element. Set in a monastery or convent, that sounds like a good one too. An ancient curse that affects multiple generations. I can think of a few movies that would fit in with that one. Read a story with elements of psychological horror, that's a good one. A female protagonist who defies social expectations. A malevolent entity terrorizing the protagonist. Set in a fog-shrouded village, I like that. Protagonist experiences a descent into madness. And last but not least, read a Gothic story set in a foreign land. I mean, you could just fill up your entire February with all of the Gothic feels. Dress in your best Victorian gear, take out your pocket watch and your fans and your candles and just have a good old time with this one. So I really wanted to keep this very, very light. I don't have any suggestions, like I said, for the bonus prompts because this video is too long as it is already. I am so excited for this. So make sure to check out my co-host videos. All of their pages will be linked down below. They're all releasing today, January 14th, if you're watching this on the day that it was released. And of course, let me know what your guys' picks are. Are you going to be taking part in this? Do you like Gothic fiction, Gothic adjacent fiction? I would really, really like to know. So I'm super, super excited about this. Hope you guys are too. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend or day whenever you're watching this. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a question or a comment down below because you know I love chatting with you guys. But until next time, stay spooky, everybody. Bye.